I just last night watched a bit of a video by a guy called Michael Criswell. Some of you probably have heard of him, and he's just talking about um, pruning. And it was kind of helpful to me because it's suddenly like the penny dropped in some things that have been happening to me. I'm going to be. I'll probably repeat myself a little bit, but I'm using some stories you might have heard, but for a different reason. But there's been several times with me. I've not come across it so much in other Christians, but I don't know whether it's because I've come across it in some Christians, but sometimes I wonder it's to do with, I suppose, just how surrendered you are, how much you commit to saying I'll do what you do. I don't know, but I'll do what you want me to do. Sorry, but certainly in my life, there's been long periods where the Lord's just disappeared. I mean, and some people say, well, what do you mean by that? And I'll say, well, he's not really speaking to me or something. He's whatever. He's not speaking to me. I don't feel his presence. Da, 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 da. And I don't think unless you've been through it, you really know what I'm talking about. So, the first time that it happened, so basically the first time it happened, forgive me if I'm repeating something you've heard before, but there's a point to this. I was going through a period I was a very, very new Christian. I'd only been a Christian for about a year. But, I was absolutely, I suppose you could say I was on fire, but I didn't really understand much of what it was all about. There was a lot going on though. The main thing that was really happening with me, spiritually speaking, was getting words for people, words for the church. A lot of it was, and I was. So the short and long of it is that I was getting more and more a bit agitated, thinking, are these words really from God? Because if they're not from God, that's not good. And I'd had these kind of encounter experiences intermittently. I'd had about 2 or even 3 in that year. Really full-on encounters with the Lord. And I was in this place, I was in the house, and I felt another one coming on. It was like he was coming out, and I really felt the sense of, because of the fear and the sense of the holiness and all that, I kind of just thought, oh, he's coming to tell me off. He's coming to rebuke me or something like that. Because of course it's just the way I thought, because I was a new Christian. I didn't really, that's the way what I assumed. But what happened is that as the Holy Spirit kind of overshadowed me, and this presence of the Lord overshadows me, I'm immediately kind of caught up in this kind of weird thing where I'm like just crying unexpected, and I'm on my face, and I've just got this sense of feet. I'm holding feet, and it's very distinct, and I'm holding feet, and and it's like this silence, I think. And he said to me, I heard a voice, and it said, will you suffer for me? Which was not what I expected, of course. And I said, I don't know, it was all Holy Spirit. A lot of the time what you say in these situations is not what you would immediately have thought of at the time, because it's a strange, but it's just, he's got it all worked out. I said what he wanted me to say. I said, save my family. He said, will you suffer for me? I said, save my family. I said, will you suffer for me? He said, save my family. I said, will you suffer for me? I said, and I just thought, this is, the point is, as he said it, I thought, this is real stuff. This is like what I've read at the end of the, Book of John. This is like, one day people are going to take you where you don't want to go and lead you, Peter, how he dies, and it had that heavy, inevitable thing, but I thought, this must be God's will, I knew there wasn't a choice in the matter. See, people think that when you're in this situation, it's like, he's asking you, like, would you like to do this, or would you want to do something else? No, he's saying, this is what I want. Not doing what he wants is not an option. Not an option you want to take. So I said I'd suffer for him. And then he said, say it with your mouth. And I went, and I just totally went, it was like, I'll suffer for you. It was I was all over the place emotionally. And I felt this sense of this presence go. And it just was gone. Well, spent a few weeks trying to fathom what that could mean. What does it mean? How I'm going to die? What does it mean? And all that. I didn't seem to me like a metaphor. It didn't seem to me like symbolic. It seemed to me like pretty real, whatever he was talking about. But you see, after about 3 or 4 months, I started to realise he wasn't around. I mean, he wasn't around in the small ways that he had been around, like little things where you say a prayer, or situations where he just seemed to sort of tweak things and help me out and sort things out. Just, there's a sense that there's a language, there's a sense he's in what I'm doing, he's around. He seems to sort of bring things up or speaking. It was just like he wasn't around, and it went and went and went and went, and it lasted about a year. And actually, I finally got to the point, and I said, it was like I just went, I think he's testing my faith, because in my mind I thought, the last thing he's asked me is to suffer for him, then it's not like I've done anything major in that time to sort of, I mean, it's a fairly specific thing that I've agreed to. It doesn't seem like I can have done anything to break that agreement in that time. I mean, he's asking me, I am suffering in a way now, but I didn't think that was a suffering. But the point is that I thought he must just be testing me. I just had to try and work it out. But the point is that it was almost like once I worked out what it was, it broke, and there was a new season of kind of like, I suppose, fruitfulness. And I kind of thought at some point as well that must have been a season of fruit bearing, of pruning. That something I didn't really at that time really know what was being pruned, and I wouldn't know what was going on. It might have been stuff in me that I'm not even aware of, that other people would only detect, as time. You know how sometimes as you change as a Christian, you find that people are noticing things about you that you don't really, you know what they mean when they say, but you haven't really paid attention to it. And as time's gone on, it's funny, I suppose it's because it's not like the natural, where fruit bearing and things like that can, they are necessarily, it doesn't work necessarily like, then, I've had short periods where I think I'm being pruned, and it's not, it doesn't take long. But other times it seems it's been, and I've had a few times, I'd say well, actually, the point of this video is I'm in it now. And it's been like, I've had about another one time after that was much longer. And I'd say this one's been the longest. The thing about this is that he's not talking. You see, because when the Lord talks to me, he doesn't have to say very much, and he doesn't have to say, it's not like an ongoing thing, but he says enough at the right time that it's like, keeps me going for a long time, because it's just like a signpost. But there's not been anything like that. There's not been any sort of... Don't get me wrong, when you get really, really, really desperate, I think that sometimes it's almost like he'd rather not show his hand, but sometimes he does, because you get so pushed to your limit that he'll maybe just do something that you kind of go, well, I'm pretty sure that was him. But the point I'm making is that this period has been really excruciating, and I've got some idea why it's going on, but I had to be reminded that he does do this. He does prune us. Because you see, I've been focused on one thing that I'm kind of hoping for and praying for, and that thing has become everything now. It's kind of holding up everything else in my life. And what I've not noticed, and as I've been in that place, I've also been in this very, very stark non-thing with God. It's been just grit your teeth and keep going and keep believing and keep trusting. And it's taken me to some pretty dark places. I mean, it's taken me... There's been like a lot of fasting and and obviously it's lockdown. There's a lot of times I've not been working, and there's been times after I went through about, I don't know, 100 days, I think, of really... I wasn't fasting the whole time. I was half fasting pretty much all the time, and I was fasting some of the time. I'm not trying to show off, but it was put me in this altered state basically, and I was praying, really only praying, I had this intensive prayers pretty much in the morning, and I'd be wiped out for the rest of the day because I didn't have the energy and that. But anyway, it's just, praying for things and trying to fight different spiritual battles and all that kind of stuff, but not really feeling God giving me any real... It's not fruitful. It doesn't feel rich. It feels barren. It's stark. But the thing that I didn't notice, and only just occurred to me, is that during this time, because I'm so... Normally I'd be a bit... I can be a bit slack sometimes. It's like I'm not always... Like a lot of people, I'm not always walking the walk as well as I should be. I'll occasionally be doing things that are like worldly ways of letting off steam, and it's not ideal, it's not right, but not anything that's doesn't concern me greatly, but I'd rather not be in that position. But the point is that over this time I've been so focused that this is it, what I'm praying about, this is it, there is no, this is do or die, that just as a matter of keeping a good conscience, I've been walking so like blamelessly, if you want to put it that way, that I've thought I'm doing that to try and get what I want, if you want to put it that way. Now I'm realising, no, he's doing it. Of course, he's always doing it. And he's making me, he's pruning me, he's getting rid of these things that I would sometimes turn to. Because I'm too scared to do anything wrong. Because I do not want this thing to fail that I'm praying for. It's life and death to me. And it's only now that I kind of went, see, because what I'm saying is I could have done with him giving me some direction, or even saying to me, you're wasting your time, because I'm in such a emotionally strung out kind of state that I just want some help, but I'm not getting it. But it's only recently I've realised that aside from that, he is pruning me. He's using this time, because of the way that I'm dealing with the situation, he is pruning me. So I'm going through this long period, and it's like really, really painful. And it's the other thing I was going to say is that when when he pushes you into your faith, and he takes you to the limits of your faith, and he takes you to the edge of believing what you are, sometimes you're thinking, I can't go any further, I can't do this, he's not answering my prayer, I don't know why I'm doing this, why am I wasting my time? But you just don't admit to yourself how unwilling to be broken you are and how resilient you are. It's the problem is you. I'm not saying this to upset anybody, because I know there's a lot of different circumstances, but when I say the problem is you, what I mean is that you're saying I can't go any further, but he knows you can go further. You're saying I can't take this, but he knows you can take this. You think I've done as much as I can. He's saying no, you've not done as much. You know what I mean? It's like he's trying to get you to the end of yourself, and you're fighting harder than you realise, because there's a lot of fight in you. And he took me to the place. He took me to the place, out in this thing, after this long, sustained warfare. I just got to this place where I had two different. I had 2 days in succession. Both took me to a very similar place. It was just absolutely the end of my rope. Like brokenness. And in the first one, I can't have to try and remember this. Well, the first thing that in one of these, there was 2 different themes that came up, but it was like he's saying, what's really at the bottom of you? When I really, really push you, I'm putting my faith in God. What's at the bottom? What is your faith? What does it stand on? What are you really about? That's what he's doing. And with me, the first thing that happened on the first day, it came out of nowhere. I just broke. It's making me emotional. And I said, you can do what you want. I was like a child. And I said, I can say to you, you said that. And you can say to me, yeah, but I didn't mean that, I meant that. When I said that name, I meant that name. And when I said that day, I meant that day in 10 years' time. I was arguing, I was shaking my fist at him. And I was saying, you can do what you want. You can turn this around. No matter what I say you've said, you can say, but I didn't mean it like that. And I was crying my eyes out. I was saying, you're impossible. I was saying, you're just this great massive rock face, and I'm banging my fists off it, and I'm not going to get anything that you'll be perfectly in your right. I know you will. I know that about you. You'll be perfectly in your right to whatever happens. If nothing that I'm believing for comes, you'll be right. And I said, this isn't fair. I was saying, you're not fair. You're not fair. I was like, I was really kind of getting. I was like when a toddler is making his case before his parents. And it was like, I just. And then the next day, something similar happened. I can't. No, the next day. This is what. Sorry. The next day, I've never thought this thought before. I've never felt this way before. But I just kept thinking, I want to end it all. I just says, I can't do it. I can't live. I can't take it. I can't do it. I said, this is too much. I can't take this anymore. I just kept thinking about jumping out a window or walking into the sea or something. I've never thought like that before. I've never felt like that before. That's what I got to. See, I'd not had any work either for a long, long time. And I'm isolated. And I just when I said I can't do it. Well, I pray in this little, like a secret place, you know, like a cupboard sort of thing. And I came out and the phone was ringing as soon as I came out. Now I'm not really in contact with many people. It's not, you know. And it was ringing, and it was work. Now I wasn't desperate for work, but you know what? I kind of felt like God was saying, okay, like let's take 5, let's break off for a bit, and it did change the mood of things, and it's kind of. But I realised He's been pruning me. He wants to get you to see what you really are. I love God, I love Jesus, but we don't really know how much we're hanging on to parts of ourselves until He shows us. You know, I happened to watch a hell video. There was some hell video that was on, just like, oh, not much later. I actually watched it because I thought if I watched something really awful, it might make me feel a bit better about myself. And I watched this hell video, and this person in this supposed real experience said they went past someone and they were saying they were in hell and they were with Jesus, and this woman was screaming, and she was saying, I can't take it anymore, I can't take it anymore. And I was thinking, you know, that's what I've been feeling, but I'm still alive and I'm born again. And you know, I just felt, well, for a start, I thought that will be like what it's like in hell, but that's not really my point. My point is that that's what I'd been feeling, but, you know, God is merciful, and He's gracious. And, you know, we are, for vulnerable, soft, weak things, we are incredibly tough. And I'm not saying that as a good thing. God's trying to break us sometimes, and it takes a lot of breaking to really get down to the bottom, to be honest with ourselves about who we are and how we stand with Him. One of the biggest things He has to break sometimes is sometimes you can have a bit of a inflated idea of how much loyalty you have to Him and where you stand with Him. You really need to find out right at the bottom where you are. You need to be real about what you think of God, who He is to you. And unless you persevere with His trials, you won't know that. He will deliver you out of this, and He will get you through it. But don't give Him an excuse to give you a fail mark, as in, don't be one of those believers that says, I've done everything I could, I did everything I could, but they're not really honest about how they were sinning to relieve themselves. They weren't being faithful. You've got to meet God. You can't give God an excuse, because these trials are not a game. They're real. Lord bless you. Amen.